Okay, welcome everybody. We are launching here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So there's a few ways that you can participate. Awesome, thank you. There's a few ways you can jump in. I love it when you jump in directly on the Zoom link. That way, if you want, you can come off mute and ask me questions at any time. I I totally like flying by the seat of my pants here on LinkedIn Live. And if you don't do that, if you are watching only on LinkedIn Live or YouTube, you can type your questions into the comment section. I'll do my best to get to those. If you have questions about your career, all career-related questions are welcome. You don't have to stay on the topic. I'll be talking about personality styles and I'll be talking about leadership. But feel free at any time to ask a question, and it does not have to do with this topic. You can ask anything career related, anything from your resume to interviewing to purpose in career to communicating effectively to how to be happier. I was just having a great conversation with somebody yesterday who, well, in the session, what we got to that was so bizarre was that basically he had never gotten to this level in his career, and he didn't see himself as having the kind of freedom that he was having, that he currently is experiencing. So he like thought there was something wrong. And so we were able to look at some of the next steps he can take in his organization and some ways to kind of solidify things for himself. But the main block that he got to was like, wait a minute, I'm just used to more stuff being wrong. so so we never know what we're going to find. So again, all questions are welcome. Anything from happiness in your career to just how do I handle this thing on LinkedIn, or how do I handle getting back to a potential employer, this kind of thing. All questions are welcome. So you can type your questions into the comment section if you're watching it on LinkedIn Live or YouTube. And if you're here on Zoom and you want to remain anonymous, you can type your questions into the chat. It's a great way to tee me up. And I'll, as I share in response to your questions, I'll be checking in with you to see if we're on the same page. So, but to start things off today, I actually want to throw the link to um, a, a personality assessment and a quick video about it. I don't want you to watch the video right now. I want you to stay here with me if you're viewing in, but you can always watch the video later. So this is a personality assessment. Some of you have probably done this one or other ones similar to it in the past. The thing that I really like about this personality assessment is that it's not super complex. It's easy to get. And the main point of it is, first, is, as always, anytime you're listening in here, I always start with understanding yourself. That will help you understand other people better. So learning your personality style and then understanding the other personality styles so that you can start to shift. So as I'm talking about leadership styles today, if you are viewing in, please take a look at this. Feel free to fill out the personality assessment part of it while you're viewing in here. And Jane, go ahead and throw those into LinkedIn Live and YouTube in the comment section as well for people viewing there. So you are welcome to click on that and start taking that as I talk about leadership styles and how that plays out at work. So, I to start super basic on this, everybody has gifts and everybody has weaknesses. There's some things that I'm not that good at, and I'm only going to get good enough at just to make it. So one of those things for me is math. I used to be great at it. Something in my brain changed in high school, and I've only ever just kept up with math in terms of, now running a business and, just making sure that I'm good with that. But I have no intention of ever understanding the complexities in mathematics the way that some people do. I'm just not going to do it. And so as I look at what my gifts are, I'm way more in touch with how people are feeling. I make the joke sometimes that if somebody else's feelings on the other side of the room are hurt, like I notice it. And so I'm going to lead differently because of that. There's things that I'm not going to be aware of. I had a super funny thing happen with this yesterday. They were just coordinating some schedules for some classes that I'm leading with some other people. And thank goodness I called up one of the other leaders and we were talking it through. And by the time we got to the end of the conversation, we realized that there was no way we could hold this one class on this certain evening because of this thing and I would have missed that. That is a piece of data that I just wasn't going to be tracking. And so it's helpful for me to know that about myself because I can look to other people on the teams that I'm in. I can start to understand where their gifts are. And I can say, I'd like your help with this kind of thing. You know, I know enough about myself to know that I'm not going to ever be a master in this. And also I can really appreciate other people more and let them know how they can support me. So as you're looking at yourself, you're starting to identify your skills and your gaps. And what kind of a leader are you? What are the things that are important to you? Something that's important to me is that people are aligned and everybody has an idea of where the group is going. That's something that like I never want, it's kind of ingrained in me to not leave people behind. And now I've worked with other leaders where they're very focused on driving things into what's possible. And so they might have the tendency to say, oh, you know what, if somebody doesn't catch up, like that's on them. Well, sometimes that's really great. And sometimes I need more of that. Sometimes that's something good, but then I can also partner with a leader who's got that sort of drive thing. And I can see the person who's starting to lag and I can help them pick up the slack, or I can address that with them. So again, you're looking at what kind of leader are you and what kind of leader are the people around you. I'll break this down even further. So this is becoming more and more mainstream, this definition of leadership. Because if we look at the raw definition of leadership, if you look it up in a Merriam-Webster, it says something like the ability to influence the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others. Thoughts, feelings, and actions of others. So who influences thoughts, feelings, and actions of others? We all do. If you are a live, eating and breathing human being, you are influencing other people. So understanding this definition of leadership is effective, especially when you're on a team, because it changes the game from it being, okay, I have to do what this leader is saying, to, oh, I'm a leader in this way. These are the ways that I'm influencing. And this is really important. I have one client who has a long-term project with their boss, because they understand that their boss is going to need to change, have a mindset shift about some core things in the business if the business is going to be successful through some of the challenges happening. So and they understand that their boss is not receptive to that at the current moment. And so they are working on managing up and being able to influence their boss. And so if my client was not understanding themselves as a leader, if they said, oh, well, you know, that's my boss's job and I just don't go there, well, then they're essentially contributing to leading the company in a way that's not going to work. And that is the influence that they're having. So it's this idea that we're all, every single human being is making an impact, whether or not we want to see it that way or not. So if I'm sitting on a couch watching Netflix, I am leading towards sitting on a couch watching Netflix. Whatever I'm doing is what I'm leading towards. So in that scenario with the client I was just sharing about, they are addressing this and they are learning, they're seeing this challenge of communicating this issue with their boss. They're seeing it as a growth opportunity. Carol Dweck, growth mindset. If you want to dig in on that, she's got a lot of good stuff on it. You'll type that into YouTube and you'll find all kinds of good stuff. So there's a choice of having a growth mindset and seeing ourselves as leaders. Just by doing that, I am now more influential. It's like I'm more conscious, I'm more engaged in the here and now with what's happening. So again, when we're looking at leadership styles, first we could say is just owning up to the fact that I'm a leader. I'm leading from right where I'm at. And then I'm looking at, okay, so what kind of leader am I? What are my natural gifts? And if anybody is taking that test through that link there, the personality assessment, you might throw into the chat, let us know when you're done so that we can get you the results. So let us know when you are completing that and we can start sending the results back to you. So there's a lot of personality assessments out there, and all the ones I've done have been very useful to me. And the value in this simple one is that it's easy to use while conversing with people. I'll make the joke about my parents and the Enneagram. It's like they can talk about where they're at on the Enneagram and never actually make contact with each other. Never have that coming together moment, that encounter with each other. They just talk about stuff that's different. And so what I like about this one is it really helps me make deeper contact with personality styles who are different than me. So we look at this through 4 quadrants, and this thing is ancient. It goes all the way back to, I think it was Socrates talked about this stuff. And we look into 4 quadrants of thinking and feeling. And in fact, you know what? I haven't gotten any questions on this yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take the time to pull up a PowerPoint on this so that y'all can get the visuals for those visual learners here. So what we look at with this is an axis of feeling and thinking. So I'm going to just start by showing you the whole model. And then we'll move into the next part. So this is the model in its entirety: cooperator, analyzer, energizer, regulator. So these are the 4 different personality styles. And I want to say too, in this, that of course we all have different amounts. And I act like more of a cooperator in some scenarios. I act like more of an energizer in others. I have learned to act like a regulator in other ways. And I even learn how to analyze more, especially having a business. This analyzer is my lowest one. So I consciously in my life look for other analyzers, look for analyzers to align with. Anyway, so the way that you can think about this is we've got the thinking and feeling axes. So are you more on the feeling side or are you more on the thinking side? Do you tend to make more logical decisions or you tend to make more decisions based off of your gut? Then we have the passive and active. So do you sit back more or are you kind of more making more observations and kind of intaking data, or are you more on the side of putting things out, speaking up, taking action? So these are the axes to be looking at. So if I'm on the more passive and feeling side, I'm landing in more the arena of the cooperator. If I'm more in the passive and thinking side, that's going to be more analyzer. More in the active and thinking side, that's the regulator. And more in the feeling and active side, that's the energizer. So another helpful way to look at this is, how do I make my decisions? So an analyzer will want to gather lots and lots of data and really does not want to be forced to make a decision. Analyzers like to make their decisions when they are good and ready to. And they tend to sit back more and have more of a stoic face. And again, they want to make the decision on their own terms, and they want a lot of data with it. A cooperator is going to make decisions more based on the social feeling of the group. Like, okay, how is everybody aligned? An energizer makes decisions based on what's fun and exciting, and what's possible and what's cool. So I really relate to this one. Like, if you convince me that something's going to be exciting and new, well, I'm down to try it. And then the regulator makes decisions based on results. What are the results that we need to achieve? Does that do it? So it's less experimental than the energizer. And the regulator will often doesn't understand the cooperator, and wanting, that the cooperator wants the team to be cohesive, and the regulator's like, look, this is the thing that makes sense. Let's do it. And will often not take in some of the core data that might be good to hear. That an analyzer sometimes will kind of over communicate data, will hide behind the data, and not want to make a decision, and sometimes will frustrate the energizers and the regulators by just giving too much detail, until the regulator and energizer are like, all right, screw you, I'm done. I don't even want to pay attention. So, but the main point I wanted to get across there is, it has a lot to do with your personality style, has a lot to do with how you make a decision. Is it based on the social feeling of the group? Is it based on collecting data? Is it based on fun and excitement? Is it based on getting results? All right. Well, I haven't checked the chat here. Okay. So no questions yet on this. So now, as you're understanding yourself, and just in looking at that slide, as you're thinking about, okay, what kind of a leader am I? What's my leadership style here? Am I more aware of the group? Am I more about the data and making sure that I've got all the details straight? Am I more about what's possible and going towards what we could make happen? Or am I more about getting results? That can give you a lot of valuable data about yourself as you're picturing yourself in an interview or in a work meeting. And just picture about what matters to you. What are the things that your attention tends to go towards? And then you can start to picture other people. And picture somebody that you have challenges with. Picture somebody, if you are currently working somewhere and you have a weekly meeting, say, who's somebody in that weekly meeting that you either feel some irritation with, or some frustration with, or maybe you feel kind of afraid or a little on edge with them? Like, I don't really, just think about that person. Think about somebody where you have some kind of a trigger or charge with them. Maybe you feel sometimes kind of hurt with that person. Like, ah, geez, I just don't think they get me. So as you're thinking about that, then now start to picture where you see yourself. And I'll go ahead and share this again. Okay, cool. We're starting to get some results in for the test. That's great. All right, we're going to do our best to get those to you now. So as you are thinking about that, I'm going to share this slide again. So picture yourself in a meeting with somebody. See if you can identify your style and see if you can guess what their style is. So, especially in meetings where there's like high-powered people, executives, I will then tend to move into the cooperator energizer very strongly. And so, and I'll start to catch that, oh, okay, I think that they're a regulator. And if they're a regulator, then I'm going to kind of lean into communicating in more of a regulator way. But some of the gifts that I'll bring in when I'm talking to a regulator is I'll be like, oh, okay, if a regulator is wanting to get results, and the way that they're probably not understanding stuff, it has to do with how people are feeling in the group. So I might say then to a regulator, I think one of the big challenges that we're up against right now is that people aren't understanding the value and how what they're doing is contributing to the final goal. And so they're not understanding what they're doing right now and how important it is. And it might be really important for people to hear that. So right there, I just tapped into because I'm going to be aware of other people's feelings being hurt and where they might seem like, you know what, I think that person is probably, my guess is that they're thinking they're not getting as much attention as maybe they want. And so if I can communicate that in a way that's not making a regulator wrong for not seeing that, but I could just give them valuable data and be like, hey, like, you want these results? I think that this is going to help you get that result. This is what I love about regulators is as soon as they get that it's going to get the result, they'll bend over backwards. And a lot of regulators will, if they need to say, oh my gosh, I've been stupid and not understanding things better, they'll do it because they want the result. So I love that about regulators. And then if I kind of lean into the energizer side of it, because that is more active, I can share with a regulator then look, to get these results, we're going to need people to be motivated. Like people are going to have to see what's possible for themselves in this. People are going to have to get excited about this goal because it's for a lot of us, it's not just about the completion, it's about the journey of that and like the just all the cool stuff that happens in the process. So that might be a way that I communicate that to a regulator. So that's a little bit. I can talk a whole lot about that because that's me. I want to check in here and seeing some things coming into the chat here. Okay, cool. Oh, so we're seeing I'm getting some results here. Here, that's great. Jane, go ahead and can you privately share that, go ahead and privately share that if you want to. You can send that over to them directly. Oh, this is cool. So we're starting to get some of these results in. Yeah, you can, if you can private message them that, to privately chat that to them, go ahead. I'm getting a question here about this, about how do we, what's your leadership style and how can you be effective with other people's leadership styles? So when challenging or pushing back on a proposal or strategy put forth by an executive, how can we appeal to their leadership style to overcome their hubris? That's a fantastic question. That's great. So what I'm going to share some here and you just let me know where I'm on. We're on the same page and where we're not. So um, if an executive has put forth a strategy and you are seeing issues with that strategy and you don't think it's going to work, if that executive is a regulator, so they care about the results, an effective way of communicating to a regulator might be to say, that strategy is going to get these results. Boom, boom, boom. So if let's just say that the result that they're looking for is to grow the company from 5 to 10 million. And let's say that they are wanting to trim what key employees are getting. And then, so you might say, look, if we want to get to 10 million, that means that we're going to need to retain this level of talent because it costs this much to continue bringing on new talent. And if we really want to maintain this, it's going to pay off now to pay this up front and invest in this team in these kinds of ways so that they, because the data that we have about these, let's say 5 key leaders, is that this is what they're wanting. And if they're getting that here, they're getting the professional development that they want, and they're getting the compensated in a way that ensures they don't have to worry about stuff. Well, then we can really turn up the dial on what we're expecting from them. We can make that very clear and we can drive for these results. But it's going to require that we pay this price up front. And so you might kind of put it like that. And if they are very set in their ways, at least when you did that, you are naming, you're becoming a fortune teller. You're starting to anticipate what is coming in the future and naming it now. So there's a risk. You might be wrong, but what's the biggest thing that's going to happen if you're wrong? And if your boss doesn't go along with you, they're not going to fire you for saying something like that. They'll just disagree with you. But then when you put it up front like that, and then if that plays out and you lose a key employee, well, they're going to remember that you said that. If you want to do a deeper investigation of this, look up Elite Sales Strategies. That's a fantastic book. I would say that if the historically it was always be closing in sales, which doesn't work anymore because we all have access to information. So then Dan Pink talks about attunement, buoyancy, and I forget his C. Um, something like that. And then this I think is the next version. I think elite sales strategies is 3.0 if Dan Pink's was 2.0. So you there are times where it's important for you to be the authority figure in that. It doesn't mean you're the authority of them. Doesn't mean you're your boss's authority, but you're the authority of your position. You're owning your position. So, okay, we're getting a thumbs up about that. So when challenging or pushing back, how can we appeal to their leadership style to overcome their hubris? That's a great question. So I'm going to go ahead and play it now with if I am communicating to an executive who is an analyzer, and oftentimes analyzers, they don't want to make decisions. And if you're dealing with an executive who consistently pushes things off and it's hurting the business, then I'll give you one guess what you do with an analyzer. And this is one of my biggest challenges because I'm such an energizer. Because I just want to perform, be like, no, like let's go, let's do this. Da, da, da. And for an analyzer, then when I'm doing that with an analyzer, they're just like they don't say it out loud, but insiders like, F you, dude. Like it's just I am so unproductive with analyzers if I try that. So what I have to do with analyzers is collect data and keep giving them information and encourage. This one's actually great when I learned this, is to encourage them to do more research and say, you know, have you looked at the data over here? Have you researched this? And I say, no. Okay. And I don't even want to tell an analyzer, okay, you should go research that. Because just by me saying you should, like, means that they're not going to, or they're going to resent it more. So it's just, I will ask a lot of questions with analyzers. And another thing that's cool too is for analyzers is a lot of us learn we think things through with more completion by speaking out loud. It's a pretty common thing for all people. We're social creatures. And this is probably a real issue in a lot of this remote stuff going on. And so if with an analyzer, what I've found is if I just keep asking questions, like good questions, like I don't have to know the answer to this stuff. I'm not doing it to try to trap them. I'm not doing it in a manipulative way. I'm literally just like, I don't know. Have you thought about this? And what an analyzer will often do is they'll start speaking out loud, and sometimes not even out loud. They're just thinking it through. And they'll start putting together data for themselves in a way that is very useful. So it's like I get to lean on the analyzer to do some of the heavy lifting with this sort of critical thinking that I might not be as skilled in. But I can stay on track so that I can help point out any flaws in their thinking. Or I can, say, is that the whole picture? And they're like, huh, no. I think there's no, yeah, no, you're right. There's more over here. And oftentimes analyzers will put together a very in-depth picture of all the different moving components in their project. And they're able to outline a strategy then that will be more effective. That's my thing with, and for me, it requires me to be with immense amounts of anxiety. As I am just sitting there asking questions because it's so my go-to to want to try to inspire and suggest stuff, and it just doesn't work. So I hope that okay, good. Thumbs up on that one. Now, with a cooperator, if you're talking to somebody who's got that as their primary leadership style, that's going to be a lot about how does it serve the group. So this often is going to be very mission oriented. is like, how does that impact everybody on the team? Is that really helping the community? Is that helping the customers? Asking questions that are going to help them see how they can be contributing to everybody. And so, let's see. Sometimes a more of the challenge with a cooperator leader is that they don't understand how much goodwill people have towards them. They don't understand that that's actually a gift that they have, and that they are sometimes sacrificing themselves in the company because they're making too many allowances, and they're trying to be too understanding. And so you asking a cooperator something like, are you really helping so and so in the company develop by continuing to train them that they're not going to get that they can continue having that kind of behavior? Are you really helping make them a better person? Is that really contributing to them in their development? So asking that kind of question, because cooperators are going to want to avoid conflict. Oh, that's another key thing in this whole thing is conflict. Who's more conflict avoidant? Analyzers and cooperators are more conflict avoidant. And so pointing out how somebody is being conflict avoidant and how that's not actually serving people. I mean, geez, as a cooperator is my secondary style. And when people point that out to me, oh, it hurts, and it's true. And it really gives me like, I'll take the risks to enter into conflict when I see that it's the chance of that serving somebody is going to be there. Now, for energizers, a common energizer mistake is that they just think everybody's going to be as excited as they are. And on top of that, actually, there's more to this. For us energizers, we've gotten a lot of attention by performing and motivating and being exciting. And it often works. But when it doesn't work, and it's definitely not always going to work, then we have to get good at keeping our mouths shut. We have to get good at not trying to provoke and like push other people. We have to get good at inviting other people to step up to our level of engagement. And we can use our energizerness to mirror back to people. So this is a big thing I do as a coach, is because I'm genuinely excited when a client of mine is having a breakthrough. So it's just like, I just get to be excited by that. I think it's so cool. And that is then reflected back to them. And it's like feeding into that part of their personal development of, oh, wow, like this is cool. Like, yeah, this is exciting. And people can start to use that in themselves in ways that they may not have had that reflected to them growing up. But it's a thing to be aware of when leading as an energizer, that it's not my job to motivate other people. If people happen to be motivated by me, that can be cool. But if I get stuck trying to amp people up, oh my goodness, that has caused a lot of pain for me in relationships of me thinking I have to energize people, and it just doesn't work that way. So I hope that this is helpful. That's a great question when challenging or pushing back on a strategy put forth by an executive. And I'm glad I read that question again. For an energizer can often miss a lot of the steps needed to get there. So I have a tendency to make self-destructive decisions as an energizer, I'll try to take too big of a jump towards something. And it's really great for me when analyzers on my team say something like, hey, you're missing all these pieces of that plan. And a regular will say, if you go forward with this, you're going to get these results, not the result you're thinking of. And what would a cooperator say to me that would be helpful? Would be, um, you make that kind of move, you're going to lose a lot of people. Like a lot of people aren't going to understand what you're doing, and you're going to need to do some more training before making that kind of a move, before taking that kind of a risk. You're going to have to make sure that people are on the same page with you. I have made a lot of mistakes where I get excited about something and I jump for it. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with me doing that, but it's really important to tap into those other leadership styles so that I'm not doing it alone. And ultimately manifesting the limiting belief I'm alone and on my own, which is, whatever. So great question. I love digging in on that one. Now, so it looks like you're seeing your results there about your personality styles. You can start to see if you're more of a regulator, how cooperators and analyzers, like you might have a harder time communicating with them. And then if you're more of a cooperator and an analyzer, you might see how you have a harder time communicating with regulators and energizers. As are cooperator analyzers are more conflict avoidant, and so will tend to not take the risks as quickly as might be good to. And so just knowing that, and just that can be a key thing of just, I'm just going to take a meaningful risk. I'm going to take 5 more micro meaningful risks a day and be training that into myself if I'm more on the conflict avoidance side. Okay, great. So, oh, wow. I've talked a whole bunch. We're already coming up to the end of the hour. If you are joining in halfway through this thing or 3/4 of the way through this thing, there's a few ways you can engage. You can always jump in on Zoom and type in your questions there. If you're watching in through LinkedIn or YouTube, type questions into the comment section. You can ask any questions. You don't have to ask questions about this topic. You can ask about your resume, your networking, your challenges with coworkers, or just being happy in your career. Oh my gosh, I'm so working this one right now for myself. I'm so freaking happy with where I'm at right now that like I'm freaked out about it. And like I'm like watching potential self-destructive behaviors to be like, okay, no, don't do that. No need to do that. Because we have a tendency, most people will have a tendency to self-sabotage. And this is great. So this client I was just talking to yesterday was starting to see that they're in a better spot than they've ever been in their career. And they started to notice resentments that they're having towards some of their supervisors because the supervisors aren't really acknowledging them, and they're bringing some other people up to not quite their level, but they're moving them up faster than they moved up. So they're like, wow, what's going on with that? And so there was a way that they're kind of like, I don't know that this is really the right place for me. Like maybe I want to start looking somewhere else. I was like, dude, how about just looking at the ways that those people are better than you? Like they're moving up faster, and why are they moving up faster? You could go through the whole effort and spend 6 months transitioning to another company and then find out the same crap's going to happen there. So like, we as humans tend to not be good at being happy. Like we don't really know what makes us happy. There's a lot of research about this. Human beings suck at knowing what makes us happy. And to just give you the secret here, the research is in on this, is that what makes human beings happy is learning and growing. Learning and growing is so important. Having a purpose helps us learn and grow more. And so it's not about the money. Yeah, making more money is nice. Being recognized is important. But ultimately, it's learning and growing. And so at any point in my career, I can look at that as, oh, if I'm a spiritually leaning person, I can say, what is God telling me through where I'm at right now? What's the lesson here for me? What's the way for me to develop as a person? So any questions that you have career related are welcome. And I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence and personality styles and all that. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in. I'll be wrapping up here in about 10 minutes. So let me know. So on this, back to the leadership style thing, let's go ahead and throw that chat out there again, or the link out there again, Jane, to Connect and Thrive. If you're just viewing in, you can take this assessment and you can fill it out. We'll get the results back to you pretty quickly. And then there's also a video on this you can use to train yourself in how to see other personality styles and how to be more effective in your communications with them. So take advantage of that if you're just joining in. And another thing that is available is there's a course. It's an online course. I often use it with people who I'm coaching, and it's also just available for anybody who's wanting help with changing their mindset in their career approach. So how they're approaching their career. I shared a little bit about that, about tapping into that growth mindset and into seeing yourself as the buyer when you are looking for a job, seeing yourself as the one who's interviewing the interviewer. So you're finding out if that's a good fit for you there. And I always say that I want to add this too, is even if, don't let the thought, oh, is it a perfect fit, start to come in, because there's no such thing as a perfect fit in relationships and in jobs. It just doesn't exist. Part of being a human being is that nothing's perfect. And so, but it's helpful to have that, is this a good fit for me? I'm asking questions in these interviews that's helping me understand if I really want to work here. And let's say now that you have that with 5 different companies, and then you can start to assess, okay, which of these 5 companies is the best one? Which do I like the most? Which has the most pros? So it's not like there's ever going to be the perfect fit, but it can be helpful to think about what's the better fit. I hope that's helpful. So, let me think if there's anything else I want to say about leadership styles. Yeah, the big thing here is, or another big thing here is something called the law of requisite variety. This is the cybernetics term. The name of the guy isn't coming to me at the moment. If anybody listening in thinks of it, let me know. But this comes from a cyberneticist. Their research on the most influential element in any system. And so in any system, if we're looking at molecules and like super micro, or if we're looking macro, the the element that has the most behaviors available to it is the most influential in that system. So this is really important to think about with personality styles. Because if I, as an energizer, if all I said was, you know what, I'm an energizer, screw the other three, I'm just going to be who I am. I'm an energizer. This is my personality style, and I have every right to just be that. That's true. I have every right to do that. But I have now limited my effectiveness. I have now made myself into a fixed thing, into a static person. And I am going to have less influence with others. So, as a conscious human being, I'm able to say, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to go back to this definition of leadership. I'm going to own that I'm a leader because I do influence people. I influence people even when I'm not saying anything. And so I'm going to take the initiative to develop my other personality style parts. I'm going to take the initiative to become more of an analyzer. And I'm not doing it in a way where I'm saying, oh, I'm going to become the best analyzer ever, because that's just, for me, that's ludicrous. I'm not going to. But it doesn't mean that I can't lean into that more and try. That I have clients that are like, they're just a lot smarter than I am. And they are way better at collecting data than I will be.
Hey, Mark.
But I can lean in and develop that part of myself more. And then I can hear what they're saying better. And I'm able to communicate in a way that's more influential to them. So this law of requisite variety is really important. And the next piece of that is so profound to me is that emotions are another, expressing emotions is a behavior that all of us have significantly dampened down. Expressing emotions effectively is something that all of us are not that good at. So if I become just a little better at expressing my feelings responsibly, it makes a profound difference through the rest of my life. Because I have now just turned the dial. I've just turned up my personal power. I've just turned up my leadership abilities by expressing emotions just a little more. I am now more effective overall. So law of requisite variety, the element in a group that has the most behaviors available to it has the most power in that group. Notice, available to it. I'm not always using that. I'm not always using the emotions, but the fact that I'm able to makes a significant difference in communicating. The fact that I'm able to match somebody, a very aggressive person. If I'm working with somebody who is a full-on, say, regulator and is a rageaholic, the fact that I'm able to match them energetically and even go beyond means that I have way more influence with them. And most people won't even trust you fully until they see that you can do that. So this thing about emotional intelligence, it's like, it's so freaking profound. Like calling it a soft skill is not accurate. It's like, it's a big deal. But we're coming up on the end here. Again, using law of requisite variety with your leadership style, learning how to shift your leadership style to be more effective with other people, learning how to speak other personality style languages. It's a gift. You will be more effective. Other people will feel more understood. And they'll appreciate you going outside of your comfort zone to be more of an effective communicator with them. All right, everybody, I am going to be signing off here. If you want to have a one-to-one conversation with me, there's a link to set up a 15-minute call. And I just like I was sharing with the guy I was talking to yesterday, doesn't have to be a long conversation sometimes. Sometimes somebody can affirm that they're on the direction they want to be pretty quickly. And then if there's more wanted, if you want more, we can talk about a coaching relationship. But if you've got something on your heart that you want to sort through, and I totally get, this is a live stream happening here, that you would feel vulnerable jumping in here. So if you have something on your heart that you want to discuss one-to-one, feel free to use that link. All right, everybody, I'm going to be back next week, and I have a guest next week. I'm excited to have Clara Lucia with me next week. She's a fellow coach and somebody who's done programs with me, and I'm looking forward to the two of us hosting Next Career Lab Wednesday. All right, everybody, take care. Reach out in the meantime if you want, and have fun with the Connect and Thrive course there. Until next